The air around you shifts when a Capricorn decides to stop pretending. It's subtle at first. A silence, a coolness, a calculation behind the eyes. And then you realize you're standing in front of one of the most ruthless forces of the Zodiac. Stay until the end, because the final reveal explains the one thing Capricorn will destroy without hesitation, and why nobody survives it. You always think you understand a Capricorn, their discipline, their ambition, their quiet intensity, but beneath all of that there's something darker, something ancient, something that feels less like a personality trait and more like a geological force carved from pressure and time. Because when Capricorn steps into their cold power, you don't meet a person, you meet a verdict, and they rarely change their mind. People often mistake Capricorn's ruthlessness for anger, but you know better. Capricorn fury isn't loud. It doesn't explode. It condenses. It crystallizes like a mountain hardening under centuries of ice. They don't yell. They don't break things. They simply remove you quietly, efficiently, with the same precision they would use to cut out a tumor. You don't even realize it's happening until you're already outside the circle. But the deeper truth is this. Capricorn doesn't become ruthless to punish you. Capricorn becomes ruthless to protect themselves from betrayal, from instability, from emotional chaos they had to survive far too early. You'll notice it in the way they watch people, the way they remember everything, the way they test loyalty without ever announcing the test. You think you're having a normal conversation. Capricorn is observing patterns, measuring intentions, cataloging inconsistencies, not to control you, but to decide whether you belong in their world. Because for Capricorn, trust isn't a gift, it's a contract. Break it once, and the contract is over. But there's an even darker layer, a layer most people never see unless they push too far. Capricorn's cold power begins with emotional detachment, not the kind that comes from apathy, the kind that comes from survival. Most Capricorns grew up learning that emotions weren't safe, that showing them meant vulnerability. So they built walls, stone by stone, until the walls became architecture. To other people, those walls feel like distance. To Capricorn, they feel like oxygen. But when someone violates Capricorn's boundaries, intentionally or through carelessness, a switch flips. You can feel it. Their energy shifts from patient to calculating, from warm to glacial, from grounded to immovable. This is the part people fear, because a Capricorn who stops caring is a Capricorn who is willing to walk away without looking back. They don't storm out, they don't chase, they don't negotiate, they simply disappear with the same calmness they had when they entered your life. But the deeper truth is, they warned you long before it happened. Capricorn always gives subtle signs, a shorter reply, a colder tone, a withdrawal of effort, a missing softness. But most people ignore it, because Capricorn makes everything look stable even while they're slipping away inside. And then one day, they're just gone. Not emotionally, not spiritually, not symbolically, literally gone. You text, they don't answer. You ask a question, they don't respond. You attempt to reconnect, they politely decline. Because once Capricorn concludes that you are not aligned with their integrity, their long-term vision, or their core sense of loyalty, it's over. Not dramatically, not temporarily, not conditionally, completely. But here is what truly makes the Capricorn dark side terrifying. Their ruthlessness is never impulsive. It's planned, measured, strategic, almost surgical. Other signs strike when they're angry. Capricorn strikes when they're certain. and certainty is their superpower. This is why you can never really talk your way back into a Capricorn's trust, because by the time they've pulled away, they've already replayed the entire relationship in their mind, mapped the patterns, evaluated the probabilities, and concluded the trajectory. They don't make emotional decisions, they make structural ones. If you threaten their stability, their dignity, or their long-term goals, they will remove you like a compromised foundation, and they will do it calmly. That calmness is what people cannot survive, because Capricorn doesn't just end the connection, they end the version of themselves that once cared. So even if you return, even if you apologize, even if you promise, you will never again meet the version of Capricorn you once knew. That version is gone, burned cleanly out of the timeline, replaced by someone colder, clearer, and stronger. But the dark side doesn't end with detachment. There is another layer, a shadow hidden behind all the discipline and ambition. Capricorn's power hunger, not for fame, not for admiration, not for applause, for control over their own life. Capricorn knows what it means to feel powerless, to be trapped in situations they didn't choose, to carry responsibilities before they were ready. That early pressure shapes them. It teaches them to rely only on themselves, to trust structure more than people, to value long-term security over short-term emotion. So when Capricorn becomes ruthless, it's usually after they've been pushed into a corner. They don't lash out. They plan their exit. They reclaim their power brick by brick. And if someone stands in the way, Capricorn won't fight them. Capricorn will outlast them. This is the part people misunderstand. Capricorn doesn't destroy opponents through aggression. They destroy them through endurance. They simply keep going after everyone else collapses. They keep grinding, they keep improving, they keep building, until one day they're standing at the top of the mountain, and everyone who doubted them is still at the bottom, looking up, wondering how Capricorn survived the climb. But you know the truth. Capricorn survives because they were born in winter, in hardship, in the season of scarcity and realism. They don't fear suffering, they don't fear difficulty, they don't fear obstacles. The only thing Capricorn fears is wasting time on the wrong people. That's why their ruthlessness feels so sharp, so final, so unflinching, because when Capricorn realizes someone is a dead end, they don't argue, they don't explain, they cut with precision, with clarity, with the kind of emotional neutrality that feels almost supernatural. But the deeper truth is, Capricorn isn't trying to hurt you. They're trying to protect their future. A Capricorn who senses that their life path is being derailed will do anything, absolutely anything, to get it back on course, even if it means leaving someone they once cared for deeply, even if it means walking alone, even if it means becoming the villain in someone else's story. Because Capricorn does not live for today. Capricorn lives for what will stand the test of decades. And if you threaten that foundation, they will choose the mountain over the memory every single time. Before the mid-roll, there's something you need to understand about the Capricorn dark side. Their ruthlessness doesn't come from malice. It comes from pattern recognition. Capricorn sees red flags early, long before other signs notice, long before behaviors escalate, long before the consequences unfold. They see the trajectory, the inevitability, the end result, and because they see it, they act early. Sometimes so early that other people accuse them of being cold, harsh, or jumping to conclusions. But Capricorn rarely jumps. They calculate, and if they walk away, it's because they've seen a future you haven't. If this is hitting home, share which part resonates so far. Is it the calm detachment, the endurance, the way Capricorn sees the ending long before anyone else does? Your experience matters. And someone reading your comment will feel less alone because of it. But now we descend into the deepest part of Capricorn's cold power, the layer almost nobody talks about. Capricorn's ability to turn pain into strategy. Most signs feel pain and collapse. Capricorn feels pain and reorganizes. They don't cry in public. They don't spiral. They don't lose control. When Capricorn reaches their breaking point, they don't break. They restructure. They become sharper, quieter, more focused, more self-contained. Pain becomes data. Loss becomes fuel. Betrayal becomes a blueprint. And this is where their ruthlessness becomes unbearable for others, because Capricorn doesn't just survive what happened, they use it. They transform wounds into clarity, confusion into strategy, hurt into boundaries. Capricorn's darkness isn't destructive, it's transformative. But transformation always comes with casualties, usually the people who underestimated them. There's a moment in every Capricorn's life when something inside them shifts, when innocence burns away and a colder, clearer self steps forward. Not cruel, not heartless, just done. Done explaining, done justifying, done accepting less than they give. This moment is subtle, but once it happens, there is no going back. You'll notice it in their silence. A different kind of silence, not the silence of overthinking, but the silence of internal finality. It's the sound of a decision being sealed. Most people never realize they've reached this point of no return until Capricorn's energy suddenly feels unreachable, as if you're standing in front of someone who is physically present but emotionally moved 12 miles underground. And the truth is, they have. Capricorn's dark side is not chaos, it's calculated withdrawal. It's the slow, steady retreat of someone who has realized they can survive without you, and maybe even thrive. But the deeper truth is that this retreat isn't spiteful, it's self-preserving. Capricorn does not collapse outwardly. They collapse inward, rebuild quietly, and re-emerge stronger, often stronger than anyone expects. People forget that Capricorn is ruled by Saturn, a planet associated with discipline, limits, karma, and the consequences of ignoring reality. This gives Capricorn their uncanny ability to see what others avoid. They sense instability, they detect misalignment, they feel the weight of unspoken intentions, and once they feel it, they don't argue with the evidence, they accept it. Acceptance is Capricorn's sharpest weapon. Not emotional theatrics, not moral outrage, just simple, bone-deep acceptance. This is what it is, and I won't fight for what doesn't fight for me. That quiet acceptance has ended more relationships than any shouting match ever could. Because when Capricorn accepts the truth, their heart goes silent. Their desire dims, their patience evaporates, and then the cold power begins. When Capricorn enters this mode, their energy becomes almost surgical. They start reorganizing their life, not in big dramatic gestures, but in small, efficient adjustments. They stop initiating conversations. They stop making exceptions. They stop prioritizing someone who has become a liability. And it's subtle enough that most people don't notice until the damage is irreparable. This is why people say Capricorn is heartless. But it isn't heartlessness, it's self-respect. Capricorn has learned the hard way that explaining their boundaries doesn't work. People only understand them when the consequences arrive. So Capricorn became the consequence. But here's where the ruthlessness sharpens even more. Capricorn does not want revenge. They want correction. If you wrong them, They don't want to hurt you. They want to reset the scales. Sometimes this means distance, sometimes silence, sometimes total erasure. But beneath all of it is a simple, unshakable ethic. You chose your actions. Now you live with their outcomes. And Capricorn won't interfere with that process. They won't defend you. They won't soften the lesson. They won't cushion the fall. If anything, they step back and let the universe handle the rest. Not out of cruelty, but because Capricorn deeply believes that consequences are teachers, and the people who hurt them have usually skipped too many lessons. You rarely see Capricorn's breaking point in real time. They hide it too well. They function through chaos. They carry responsibilities while bleeding internally. They hold everything together until the structure looks perfect, but their shadow side emerges when they finally realize the structure isn't worth holding. And then they dismantle it in silence, piece by piece, brick by brick, memory by memory, a slow, methodical undoing that feels like an earthquake you didn't feel until after the building collapsed. Capricorn endings aren't loud. They're architectural. They change the blueprint of their life and build a future where you no longer exist, not because they hate you, but because they value themselves. The most unsettling part of Capricorn's cold power is this: they do not need closure. They do not need explanations. They do not need your reasons. They do not need emotional conversation. They do not need validation. Capricorn creates their own closure. They close the door quietly, lock it from the inside, and keep the key. Even if you knock, they will hear you, but they will not open. They don't revisit burned bridges because they don't rebuild what was never structurally sound. It's hard for people to understand this level of emotional finality. Most signs operate on waves of emotion. Hurt followed by longing, anger followed by vulnerability, goodbyes followed by nostalgia. But Capricorn doesn't operate in waves. They operate in thresholds. Once you cross certain lines, disrespect, betrayal, manipulation, unpredictability, carelessness, there is no way back. Capricorn might forgive in theory, but they will not reinvest in practice. This is why so many people walk away from Capricorn, feeling like they've been exiled from something rare, something sacred, something they did not fully appreciate until it was too late. And they're right, because Capricorn's devotion once lost is nearly impossible to restore, not because they hold grudges, but because they build internal systems. And if you break the system is not rebuilt for you. It is rebuilt without you, Sagmar. But there is another side to the ruthlessness, the side that nobody talks about because it reveals something vulnerable beneath the stone. Capricorn only becomes this cold when they cared too much. Their detachment is not the absence of emotion, it is the aftermath of emotional injury. Capricorn feels deeply, but secretly, quietly, internally. So when those feelings are mistreated, they don't burst into flames, they turn into ice. Their coldness is their shield, their withdrawal is their protection, their silence is their healing. The people who label Capricorn heartless are usually the ones who never earned access to Capricorn's heart in the first place. There's a certain dignity in the way Capricorn lets go. They don't smear your name. They don't create drama. They don't assemble a crowd. They don't weaponize secrets. They simply remove themselves and let your life continue without their presence. This elegance is often mistaken for indifference, but the truth is much heavier. Capricorn respects endings as much as they respect commitments. If they give you their loyalty, it's unwavering. If they give you their goodbye, it's permanent. Both are delivered with the same seriousness. Both are promises. And now we reach the part of Capricorn's cold power that almost nobody survives. When Capricorn decides to improve their life after being hurt, they transform with terrifying speed. They level up. They shed the dead weight. They change their habits. They refine their focus. They triple their standards. You look up one day, and they are a completely different person. Stronger, calmer, more confident, more structured. This transformation is devastating to anyone who assumed Capricorn would remain the same. Because Capricorn's glow-up is not cosmetic, it is existential. They become the version of themselves they always should have been. And sometimes, your memory has no place in that version. This is why people return to Capricorn years later and say, "You've changed." But the truth is, Capricorn didn't change. They finally healed. And healing looks like evolution. Evolution looks like distance. And distance looks like coldness to the people who expected Capricorn to stay wounded forever. But the part people rarely understand is what sits beneath Capricorn's ruthlessness, because behind the cold power, behind the discipline, behind the endings and the thresholds and the silence, there is a wound Capricorn never talks about, a wound they learn to hide so well that even the people closest to them never notice its existence. It's the wound of carrying everything alone. Capricorn rarely had the luxury of falling apart. Life asked them to be strong early, sometimes too early. They learned responsibility before comfort. They learned self-control before self-expression. They learned emotional endurance before emotional safety. So while other signs learned to cry for help, Capricorn learned to become the help. And this is why their dark side feels so different. Their coldness isn't immaturity, it's exhaustion, it's wisdom. It's the accumulated weight of every time they had to be the stable one when nobody else was. They built themselves into a fortress because nobody ever protected them. They raised their own spine because nobody was there to steady it. And by the time adulthood arrives, they don't know any other way to survive. So when someone hurts them and expects softness in return, they simply cannot give it. They had to earn their emotional strength brick by brick. And once you've built that kind of structure, you don't let anyone careless near it. There is a moment though, a rare moment, when Capricorn shows their vulnerability. It's subtle, a shift in the voice, a slight hesitation, a confession dropped like a pebble in a quiet lake. If you ever witness that moment, you are experiencing something sacred, because Capricorn does not open easily. They do not trust quickly. They do not reveal their internal world to anyone who hasn't proven themselves over time. So when someone squanders that trust, when they take advantage of it, minimize it, or betray it, Capricorn does not explode. They simply freeze the part of themselves that trusted you, not forever, just away from you. And that kind of selective emotional shutdown feels like ruthlessness to the ones who assumed Capricorn's loyalty was guaranteed. But here's the paradox. Capricorn is loyal even in their darkness. They will still check on people silently. They will still help from a distance. They will still care without showing it. They will still wish you well from the shadows of their absence. They don't hate easily. They don't desire harm. They don't carry spite like other signs, but their limits, once reached, are immovable. You cannot negotiate your way back into a Capricorn's inner circle after you've shattered the foundation. They may forgive you. They may smile at you. They may even speak kindly of you, but they will not rebuild intimacy. They will not restore access. They will not return to who they were with you. And this is the part most people never survive, because Capricorn's distance is not a phase, it is a decision. Once they leave emotionally, their heart relocates, sometimes to a new dream, sometimes to a new version of themselves, sometimes to a quieter, more peaceful solitude they didn't know they needed until you pushed them toward it. But it's what happens after the cold period that truly defines Capricorn's dark side. Eventually, slowly, quietly, Capricorn warms again, not for you but for themselves. They take all the pain, the lessons, the disappointments, the hidden tears, the late-night overthinking, and they turn it into power. They channel it into work, into goals, into self-mastery, into new environments where their loyalty and consistency are finally valued. Capricorn's healing is not loud, not showy, not a performance. It's practical, grounded, systematic. One day they stop checking the old messages. One day they stop remembering the old promises. One day they stop replaying the betrayal. One day they stop wondering why. And the moment they stop wondering why, their spirit becomes sharp again. Their ambition reactivates. Their confidence returns. Their patience becomes selective. Their heart becomes wiser. Capricorn's evolution after pain is not about proving anything to anyone. It's about reclaiming the parts of themselves they abandoned trying to carry someone else. Someone once asked, "Why does Capricorn seem so much stronger after heartbreak?" The answer is simple. Capricorn doesn't break. They restructure. Their dark side is not destruction, it's renovation. They clear out the emotional debris. They rebuild the boundaries. They reinforce the foundation. They install better locks on the doors, and they rise again, not harder, but clearer. And clarity is Capricorn's most dangerous form, because once they become clear, nothing can sway them. Not guilt, not nostalgia, not pressure, not someone's sudden remorse. Clarity is their freedom. And once Capricorn becomes free from caring how others perceive them, they step into the full power Saturn gifted them, unshakable, steady, quietly formidable, the type of person you don't realize you depended on until they step away and the silence they leave behind echoes through every corner of your life. And now, here is the truth no one wants to hear, but everyone needs to. Capricorn doesn't want to be ruthless. They want to be understood. They want reciprocity. They want reliability. They want communication that matches their consistency. They want gentle support that matches their strength. They want someone who sees how much effort they put into everything and doesn't take it for granted. But if they can't have that, they will choose solitude over half-hearted connection every time. Because Capricorn's soul would rather be alone than be misunderstood in company. That's the final layer of their cold power. They are not afraid of loneliness. They are afraid of disrespect. And once you understand that, you understand the heart behind the hardness. Before we close this journey, here's something to reflect on. What was your experience with Capricorn energy as a Capricorn yourself or in someone you've known? Tell us below. Your story might resonate more deeply than you expect. And now, take one last breath with me. Remember that the dark side of Capricorn is never born in malice. It is born in experience, born in lessons, born in survival, born in the heavy paths they walked alone while others slept easily. Their coldness is earned. Their silence is justified. Their withdrawal is wisdom. Their boundaries are sacred. And when they love, past the walls, past the caution, past the scars, they love with a depth most people will never know how to hold. So if you ever earn a Capricorn's devotion, cherish it. Because if you lose it, You may spend a lifetime wondering how to survive their cold power. Thank you for watching. If this resonated with you, hit subscribe and tap the bell so you never miss the next deep dive.